see everyone here so bright and early this morning, and it's such a pleasure to welcome you. My name is Judy McKinney-Cherry. I'm the Executive Director for the Schuyler County Partnership for Economic Development, and we are so excited to be able to host this. This is our first time doing something like this, and so we're just, I can't even tell you how warm my heart is to see a room full of my fellow Schuylerrites? Are we Schuylerrites? I'm not sure. What are we? Are we Schuylerrites? Yeah, we're special. All right, we're special. That's what we are. All right. So we anticipate that you'll gain insight into funding opportunities and resources. You'll have an opportunity to learn about what your colleagues in Schuyler County are interested in pursuing, and identifying areas where we can have meaningful collaboration that can result in financial resources for your specific needs. Before we get started, I want to do a couple housekeeping for you. One is we're at the racetrack. We're at Watkins International, so we're going to try and speed this along. So if you see a yellow card go up, that means somebody's talking too long. Don't even do it. Thanks, Joe. We also have the restrooms are through the door to the right. We will be led through this process by a facilitator extraordinaire, Amy Bond, who is right here to my right. So we're very appreciative of having Amy here with us today. And I really want to take a moment and just truly and sincerely thank you for coming out today, and to thank our panelists and all of our representatives from the state and from Southern Tier Central for taking the time on a day to get here to visit with Schuyler County, the second smallest county in the state, with a hell of a turnout today. I'm telling you, this is just amazing. So the smallest county is Hamilton. Now someone told me Sullivan. Sullivan. Well, whatever. You're the second smallest. So we could argue later what we're going to do. So I want to take a moment and thank the individuals who have sort of sponsored this for us. Watkins International, Fagan Engineers, and Atwater Estates Vineyard for their sponsorship. Atwater's going to have some wine here later, so you want to stick around for that. And I just want to say, in a moment now, we'll try and point out our elected officials, but Schuyler County was blessed this past round of CFAs to be awarded $2,546,200. And the recipients include WGI, the Village of Watkins Glen, the Village of Montour Falls, the Town of Reading, the Town of Dix, Soil and Water Conservation District, the Schuyler County Partnership, SCOPE, and Schuyler County on behalf of Project Seneca. And while this is tremendous and it's great, and I'm not sure if it's the largest award that we've had sort of in 1 year for diverse purposes, this is great, but we can do so much more. We can do so much more. And the reason that we wanted to put this workshop on today is because we believe we're leaving some great opportunities behind that we need to capitalize on. And we believe that if we have the ability to leverage everyone's needs, and we're able to leverage the monies that are out there that are already being put into the small businesses and the media businesses, and actually create community good, we think we can really sort of rock and roll going for the next 5 years on this grant program. The grants are competitive. You're going to hear about that today. But one of the things that has come through loud and clear from someone who's not been part of this process over the last, just for the last 2 years, and that is, it's really clear that the state's looking for collaboration. It's really clear that the state's looking for leveraging of private dollars, and they're looking for where communities come together and where they're able to sort of all get on the same page and make something happen. And so I would say to you right now, we are on the cusp of something really unique and extraordinary, just absolutely extraordinary. With the Upstate Revitalization Initiative, which was the governor's competition for the $500 million, the Southern Tier won one of those pots of money. And today at lunch, you're going to hear from Tom Tranter, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit about that. But the reason I find that to be just extraordinary is that for the first time, Schuyler County is on the same playing field as every other county in the state of New York. And in fact, we're probably in a better position because right now, if we were to all get together behind some 1, 2, or 3 major goals for the entire county, and we were to put something together that shows that we were collaborative across the entire county, public, private, nonprofit, I truly believe we could put something, and we could get something extraordinary in our county that would be life-changing for all of us. So I'm throwing that out as your challenge today, to not only think about what your own personal need is for your community or your own business, but to also think about what is it that's out there that we could do that is just extraordinary, that we can all sort of get behind. So I think leverage is a key word, collaboration is a key word. I've just given you the challenge, and it's really about synergy. What I'd like to do is I have to do this because I just have to do this. I have to acknowledge our elected officials, because that's what you do when you're at the podium. And I'm going to start at the left side of the room, and if I miss somebody, raise your hand. Okay, don't make me be embarrassed later. So I'm going to start with Supervisor Don DeRocher, raise your hand. Yeah. He's from the town of Tyrone. I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to say Don DeRocher. And then I see Alvin White. Okay, now I'm going across, here we go. Actually, do me a favor and raise your hands if you're elected. Okay, so I've got Alvin. Okay, I'm going across there. Jim Howell did not listen to me when I said raise your hand. So Jim Howell is 2 hands. 2 hands. I am going to ask, we are here in Schuyler County, and we do have Tim O'Hearn, who's our county administrator, in the audience. Would you like to say just a few words, Tim, to welcome the folks here?
Sure.
All right. So, and you can now stop and get a donut.
That's great.
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
It's just awesome.
Doing this in honor of our special guest, Mr. Joe Roll.
Oh,
Welcome to Schuyler County, Joe. Joe only comes if there's food, so. Good morning, and on behalf of the county legislature, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome everyone this morning, and thank you for taking the time to attend. Judy hit all of the high spots, but I certainly echo her comments, also in echoing the welcome and thank you to our state representatives for coming. This, to my knowledge, may be the first such gathering within the regions in New York State, and it's really a testament to the strategy that's been employed in moving forward and trying to, as Judy said, leverage funds to improve our community. And you're all a part of that, and we really value your input, and I'm sure today will be a very productive session. To our state representatives, thank you for your wisdom, your input, and I'm sure what you offer will be invaluable to the participants today. We've been very successful in seeking funding over the last 5 years. And what we've done that many other communities haven't done is we haven't asked for it unless we knew we had a use for it. And in every case where we've received funding on the public sector, we've done what we've said we've done. We've returned more than what we expected to do or what said we would do in asking for money in terms of results and outcomes. And that is a testament, again, to Judy's leadership, to the elected officials that are in this room, and to you as partners with that. So I, again, offer a welcome. Thank you for your attendance, and we look forward to many more continued success stories within the county and our community. So thanks again.
Thanks, Tim. No, we're bringing that donut today.
thanks.
Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do, we are thinking, what we want to do is make sure we speed along, so we might, I'm going to leave this in Amy's hands to share with you how we're going to do this, but we are very aware of the weather, so we are not going to spend a lot of time. We may condense a few things, but at this point, what I'm going to do is turn this over to Amy Bond, who's our facilitator, who also, I'll just say this, also as a grant writer, was the person who worked with me for the Project Seneca $1 million grant, so she knows how to write. So with that, Amy, you want to come up and take it from here? Thank you.
Let me just echo thanks to Judy and to all the panelists for coming today. And there's one other person we need to acknowledge in the room who Judy called, I think, 3 weeks before the deadline on the scoped application, and it was so intriguing and so exciting, and she's so impressive that you would never say no to something like that. But when you get that opportunity, you got to pull in a ringer. So Stacy Murphy is here from Murphy Grant Consulting, and Stacy, could you just stand up? So Stacy squeezed it into a variety of obligations she had and loaned us her immense talent to the grants process. So I'm a grant writer, and not necessarily a public speaker, so I've written it down, so I'm going to go off my notes. I'm not quite as dynamic as Judy, but stick with me on this. So this, the idea for this workshop was born during the 3-week time in the summer in July, you know, the glory days of summer where it's beautiful and you want to be out in your kayak and not necessarily pulling all-nighters on your computer. And I was like, Judy, you know, if we started doing this like way earlier, you could be outside kayaking during the deadline time, not, and she just bought a house too, not cooped up in front of your computer. So this is why we're here, and I believe that January in upstate New York, winter in upstate New York, is perhaps the best possible time to be doing grant writing. So that's why we're here, and very excited to have you. The theme of today is partnering for resources, and to help the process along, we've designed a workshop that hopefully will spark some conversations about collaborations and how organizations can work together and how to bring even more resources to Schuyler County. So I just want to quickly walk through today's agenda. This morning we have 2 panels, the first of which will give you an overview of funding resources, and we have just the dynamite team of funders, and if you're looking for CFA money or for other funders, these are your go-to experts for that. The next panel is designed to talk specifically about collaborative grant writing. So what does it take to put together a collaborative grant? And then in the afternoon, most of you put stickers up for your particular areas. We'll break down into cluster areas, and this is where I think we're going to speed things up. We're going to do TA and cluster sessions and see what kind of collaborations we can come out of. It could be, collaborations could be, hey, I'll write you a letter of support, hey, I'll review your grant, or hey, it sounds like we're all working on something together, let's try and put together a bigger application. So why is this kind of workshop important? I know you've already heard a little bit about that, but as a grant writer, I'm in the position of looking at an organization or a community and assessing its needs and assets. And typically, it's not hard to figure out what the needs are, because if you're a grant writer, you're being pulled in to address a need. But the joy that I have is often pointing out the great assets that people have, and to say, look, you know, you drive past the lake every day and you might get used to it, but you are living in one of the most beautiful places on earth. And it's a joy to remind people of that. And you're notoriously humble, and sometimes you're like, oh, you just leveraged $1 million. Do you understand that? What you're doing with the wastewater treatment plant is one of the most innovative collaborative things, and will go down in the books for world collaborations. Everybody in the state's talking about it. So that's really exciting stuff. And if anybody was at the Project Seneca meeting last night, that was the theme. It is impressive what you're leveraging and how far along you are on your timeline. And I like to think of this as common sense rural community development. And I'm going to illustrate why I think Schuyler County is uniquely poised to collaborate to bring meaningful resources to the county. As professionals, you work on behalf of your neighbors to improve the quality of life in the region, but the story I'm going to tell happens about when you go home and you interact with your neighbors. I grew up just one lake over in New York, and if you haven't had a chance to be there, it's a hamlet of about 500 people and 750 cows. And Etna's known for the Fall Creek Whitewater Derby and for having more ornithologists per capita than any other town in the country. But it's also known for its soup and salad suppers, and I don't think they have them. Kathleen was telling me. Kathleen's also a resident of Etna. They don't have them anymore, but it used to be every winter month, in order to raise money for the community association, we would have a soup and salad supper. And it was a great dinner fundraiser. And rather than it being onerous on people to show up with soup, it really became a point of pride. You know, it was always like, who's going to have the best-selling soup for the month? You know, is it going to be Mrs. Rankin's borscht? Is it going to be Mr. Truchek's beef and barley? Or, God forbid, my dad threw gizzards in the chicken noodle soup, you know, because that didn't sell. But this is where the community, that's where community work really happened. And there was a lot of pride in being able to produce these meals, but it was also where the discussions took place. It's where was the scholarship money going to go? It was where can we support, how can we get money to pave the parking lot, and especially identifying families in need and how we might be able to support them in a dignified way. And that is great rural community development to me, and that's why I think it's really, it's one of these great assets that you have when you take this to the professional level and you talk about doing things in a stone soup, just like the fable, in a stone soup. What is the best thing you can bring to the table? All of your organizations have needs. All of your organizations have talented staff. And when you put those together, when you say, look, I have the great finance person, or I have the great engineer, or I have the person who can put together the most beautiful application, you're really, really doing the best. You're bringing the best of what you have to the table. And the great part is you've got $500 million to play with. It's a community developer's dream to be able to say, you know, often when you do these workshops, it's like, okay, come up with a big, big vision, and then we're going to go find funding. But today, it's the funding's here, bring us the vision, and let's make something happen. And that's a joyful, joyful, wonderful thing to create meaningful, sustainable change. Okay, so when you break down your cluster sessions, I really encourage you to think big. And I never get to say this as a grant writer, but go ahead and add a zero. The average to your budget. The average request on the pre-survey that we asked was $75,000, which is great, but you can actually go for more, and collectively you can go for more. So I really encourage you to reach out, think about the municipalities in particular, think about solving these issues that rural communities face, whether it's transportation, whether it's healthcare, education, the arts. Think about how you can work together. Think about how you can work together cross-sector. You do it every day in your work. Just do it every day. Apply that same principle to the grant writing. Let's see, Judy already covered, just got a few housekeeping items. The bathrooms, if you haven't already done so, please put a star for your cluster. Out in the lobby, we have a sign for suggested resources and follow-up activities. Michael has put together this awesome website, and we'll get everybody the link to that. So it's got all the matrices of funders and the resource and handbook guides for everybody. But if you have something else that you would like to have up there, please put it up there. And also, if there are follow-up activities that you think would be truly helpful to you, whether it's about a specific grant or whether you want to bring people together for a specific conversation, please put that up. And you know that the scope team is all over that, and they'll do a great job with that. Let's see, it's our first time doing this, so you've got an evaluation in your packet, so please, before the end of the day, take a minute to fill that out so we know what we're doing right and what we can do differently. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to, oh, sorry. For today, for the afternoon, we will figure out a way to speed things up and to try and get you out at least an hour earlier, okay? But we'll have that plan once we see where we're done, where we are time-wise, once the panels are over, so. There you go.
So we're talking about timely moving things along and being fast, and I represent the state of New York. Anyway, Joe Roman, as I've been introduced, and yes, I certainly do like to eat food. Thank you, Tim. Anyway, I represent New York State Empire State Development. The easy example of what I do is I do for the state of New York in a similar vein of what Judy Cherry and Scope in Schuyler County. I represent the Southern Tier Regional Office. I report to the state office in Binghamton, and then the office over here, since the region is so geographically wide, I report here locally to the Elmira office. But anymore, the Elmira office, I'm there very, very limited. My real office is pretty much my car. Since we're covering 8 counties, I am all over the place in the region. The agency itself, our main offices are in New York City and also in Albany. Those are the main centers of decision making for the organization. Today, as mentioned, we have